All right. I think we should be good now. Sorry about that. 1 second there. Looked like the sounds are working, but I think we should be good now. Glad that you can hear me. All right. I hope everybody is doing well. Let me know how it's going. As always, this first hour, just waiting for people to join us. If there's anything you want to talk about, let me know, and I'd be happy to talk about them with you. Otherwise, Canadian Agriculture Day and Freemasonry, some interesting connections between agriculture and Freemasonry. So that might be kind of fun to talk about. As always, this first hour, it's more a chance for us to talk about anything we want to talk about as it relates to Freemasonry. And then from there, we can go into talking about anything specifically, such as Freemasonry and Canadian Agricultural Day. I have an interview tonight with Black Raven Meditation, which I can't wait to have that interview. The weather has been wonky in Texas, but the food has survived. LOL. Well, that's the most important thing. So long as the food has arrived, I'm happy about that. I hope the food keeps on surviving. Texas always has such great food. I'd hate to see it not working so well. What is Canadian Agriculture Day? Sounds interesting. It is, and honestly, it's something I just learned about through X. I usually try before I go onto these streams to take a few minutes at least to search X, see what's trending, and see if there's anything we're talking about. I will actually share the screen for a second once I can pull up at least what I've got here. But it is obviously in Canada anyways, and I'm sure there's an equivalent in the States. I don't know if it's the same day or not. But it is basically just a day to celebrate the heart of Canada in a lot of ways, at least figuratively, our farmers. I'll share this screenshot. In the meantime, welcome everybody who's just joining us. Please hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to be talking about agriculture and Freemasonry and some interesting connections between the two shortly. Let me just share the screen so you guys can see what we have happening today. Where is that Twitter screen? There it is. As always, in almost any field, right, there's going to be Freemasonry involved somehow, if in no other way, just the fact that there will be Freemasons engaged in that field, which I think is really, really cool. But as always, sometimes there are very unique and interesting connections that you wouldn't expect. And I like to share those with people. So I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about the connection between Freemasonry and agriculture. But in the meantime, please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. It would be much appreciated. And let me know also. I usually wait about an hour in to let people find us and talk about what they want to talk about. So if there's anything that you guys want to discuss while we are waiting, that would be awesome as well. And just let me know what it might be. So let's give it a bit of time. Actually, here, I'm going to, as always, I find these polls help get more people involved. Let's see. Did you know that today is Canadian National Agriculture Day? Charismatic Fiend, good morning, all. Good morning, Charismatic Fiend. Welcome back to the stream. I hope that you are doing well. Let me know how it's going for you. And today, like I said, it's National Agriculture Day here in Canada. There's some interesting connection between Freemasonry and agriculture. Not so much Freemasonry and agriculture in Canada, at least to my knowledge, but definitely Freemasonry and agriculture in the world. There's an agricultural lodge in Somerset, England, which I want to talk about. So there is some really fun and cool stuff there. Listening while working. No worries at all. We appreciate you being here and listening while you're working. It is much, much appreciated. As usual, we'll give it half an hour to an hour to see who all jumps on. And then we can get started on today's main topic. Once again, Freemasonry and agriculture. But that doesn't mean, as I always say, we can't talk about anything else or any other questions as they arise. Yesterday, I mentioned it before in the stream, I had a great visit to Dearborn Lodge in Dearborn, Michigan. And then afterwards, we went out for some great food at Zoe's Burgers, which is right across the street from the Masonic Temple in Dearborn. So that was a lot of fun as well. So yeah, those are a couple of really special night. Dearborn is a really, really incredible lodge. So it was an absolute pleasure to be in attendance. But I hope that everybody listening is doing well. I will probably share this in a few minutes, but we'll wait to see who finds us organically. Tonight, I've got an interview with Black Raven Meditation, which I can't wait to talk to her. Her name is Corey. She's been on a few of these streams. She's a spiritualist. She, I guess, is I suppose owner would be right, owner or even founder of Black Raven Meditation. We're going to talk about spiritualism, meditation, spirituality, and how Freemasonry can incorporate some of these practices. Certainly, I would say how it can incorporate meditation into perhaps its meetings to improve the health and well-being of its members. So that will be really special. And as always, hit that like and subscribe button. So far, we've got 3 votes, all 3 no for do you know today's Canadian National Agriculture Day. I did not know about that myself until I started researching last night for what I was potentially going to start talking about today. So most of us didn't. So it's really cool to get the chance to learn about this stuff. I got a great opportunity to speak with Jerry, my sponsor, one-on-one. He shared some amazing pictures of his recent Masonic achievements from Tommy F. Chapman, Grand Master of the Grand Texas Grand Lodge. Yes, he is. And he's a really cool Mason as well, from what I understand. So I've never had the chance, I don't believe, to ever meet him, but I've heard really good things about him. Seems like a really cool guy, as do pretty much all Texas Masons. I've always been very impressed with Texas Freemasonry. It's one of my favorite things to one of my favorite states to visit, one of my favorite places to be in. So yeah. Congratulations, Tommy Chapman, on all the work that he is doing, as well as everybody involved in Freemasonry in Texas. Keep up the good work. Did I have delicious coffee at the lodge? I did, actually. It was really good. I always try to find. Actually, no, that I went to the burger place. So I ended up having some really delicious burgers, which was quite good. But no coffee, and not till I got back home. Then I had some. I agree. It was awesome. One of the best things about being a Freemason is the travel by far. And even if the travel is relatively close, it still is really special. So even if you're just traveling through to, Dearborn to here or here to Dearborn, I should say, is maybe 30 minutes or so, if that. Kind of depends on the border. So, I mean, when you are that close, it's really, really, even that though counts as travel. A lot of people have this tendency to view travel as meaning that you have to be traveling like super far away, or you have to, I don't know, it has to be hours and hours or long road trips. And that can be a type of Masonic travel. And that's a really special and fun type of Masonic travel. But that's not the only type of Masonic travel that there is. Sometimes the most rewarding Masonic travel can be travel really close by. Cameron, what's your favorite part about the morning? Little chat before class. My favorite part of the morning. What's funny, I love mornings. I love waking up early in places I've never been to before, like the visitation part of it. So I'm somewhere new. I'm staying in a hotel or whatever. I love waking up in the morning. Kind of feels like there's all sorts of possibilities as to what the future will hold, or what the day at least will hold. I kind of love that feeling. I love. I talked about this before, I think, on my other YouTube channel. There are certain places where 5 a.m. just feels special, like the Chicago Loop, for example. I love being there at 5 a.m. Something about Chicago at 5 a.m. feels like the whole city's waking up. It's really fun sense of possibility. I used to be better at it, but I used to love staying up all night and then seeing the sunrise the next morning. That was always kind of special to see. To see the way again, you're seeing the sunrise from the other side of it, if that makes any sense, which I always thought was really special. So those are just some of the things I love about the mornings. I'm not usually a morning person per se, but again, if it's been a late night, I like staying up. Something about coffee at midnight, one of my favorite songs, right? Something about that idea of having coffee at midnight, or about the sense of, I don't know, certain songs are just morning songs. Coffee at midnight. I really love Mr. Tambourine Man by Bob Dylan, which I think is about that feeling of it's 4 or 5 in the morning. You spent all night out with your friends, and now the party's over, and you're going back home, and you're seeing the dawn of a new day. I think those are really fun. That's a really fun feeling. So I guess I love my favorite part about the morning is waking up, kind of either waking up or seeing it from the other side, staying up all night, and seeing a new day kind of dawning and the possibilities that that new day possess. Because every day is full of possibilities, right? And that's a fun feeling. And also that feeling of kind of being alone with your cup of coffee and thinking about getting ready for the new day. That's a special feeling. I love hot chocolate and mint leaves, including an NBC News. Okay, yeah, there is something nice also. I think it's kind of an old standard thing about waking up in the morning and watching the news. That can feel really good and really special. Again, because you kind of feel like you are on your own in some ways. So that's a special feeling to have your own space and kind of prepare for the day. That can be pretty special. So I would say those are my favorite things in the morning. Never been a big hot chocolate fan in the morning. I don't mind hot chocolate at night sometimes, but I find for me in the morning, I will tend to stick to coffee. Unless if I need to drink my coffee super fast for whatever reason, like let's say I'm really tired, I need to get a lot of caffeine in me, then I find sometimes half coffee, half hot chocolate, I can drink it quicker than if I can if it's just straight black coffee. So there is that. Cacao is good for you. I've heard that, but I've heard that cacao is good for you. How do I put this? I've heard cacao is good for you, like dark chocolate, dark cacao, if that makes any sense. I've heard that that is really, really good for you, as opposed to um, like milk chocolate. I could be wrong though. So charismatic fiend, yes, okay. So then, charismatic fiend, are you a fan of the hot chocolate as well? Because like I said, I find the only time I can drink like hot chocolate, I'll never, or will put hot chocolate in my coffee is when it's like I said, I need to drink it quickly for some reason. You're a good person. I will never let you talk to my doctor because my doctor is always giving me hell for my diet because I am the worst when it comes to eating well. I try to be better. I often fail, but I do try my best at least to be better about what I eat. But good for you. I support that 100%. And I've talked a lot about how Freemasonry in general, Freemasons should care about their health and their well being and trying to take care of themselves. So, and I think that's true for everybody, by the way, not just Freemasons. I think it's just true for people in the world, is we should all care about that stuff. So, good on you and good for you. Is there are many areas where I kind of fall short. I would say diet is definitely one of them. Um, I was for a little while, and honestly, it's sad I stopped doing it because I felt great. Um, I I got like a diet plan for a little while, and I was doing a pretty good job at that, honestly. And I felt great as I was following it. I just got lazy and then stopped following it, and so it's my own fault. I should work on that. I have been drinking mushroom. I've heard mushroom coffee is supposed to be really good for you. So I've heard anyways. Is it caffeinated? Because that's the one thing I've always wondered. Like, is it actually, does mushroom coffee have caffeine in it? Or is it basically just like a broth? Because it's almost certainly on my list of things I want to it's cool, depends on what you buy. Welcome. If you're just joining us, by the way, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you drink mushroom coffee, as does Charismatic Fiend. And I've never tried it. Let me know if it's good or not. Maybe I'll do that as a poll question. Today is international, or not, sorry, international. Today is Canadian Agriculture Day. There's actually some really interesting connections between Freemasonry and agriculture, and I want to share those. But as always, we're giving it between 30 minutes to an hour for people to come in and join us. So once they do, I will switch to the topic at hand. But it'll probably take about an hour or so in order to get that far. We were talking about our things to do in the morning. As Courtney says, every morning a new sun greets us. We're doing something new, which is absolutely true. And that's my favorite part about the mornings, and something that I love. And then we're talking about our favorite drinks in the morning. We've had hot cocoa mentioned, including dark chocolate, which, as Charismatic Fiend points out, is good for you. But he has been drinking mushroom coffee. Some has a little bit of caffeine. I'm debating trying it. Maybe that'll be the next poll question. Should I try mushroom coffee? And if there's any good brands. Actually, Charismatic Fiend, not that I'm asking for sponsorships or nothing, but do you know any good, like, what's your brand, your go-to brand for mushroom coffee? And you say some, I think for me, a little wouldn't cut it. I think I would need a lot of caffeine in order to make it through a day. I'm definitely at the point where I need a lot of coffee. I bought everyday dose. I will look that up and I will check that out. And maybe I can order some or order some in. Might be kind of fun. And welcome. If you're just joining us, please hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to talk later on today about Freemasonry and agriculture, which is a very interesting topic. I think people don't realize the connections between Freemasonry and agriculture, or really, I should change that. People don't realize the connections between agriculture and Freemasonry, because agricultural groups actually borrowed a lot of symbolism and symbology, if that's the best term, from Freemasonry, which is really fascinating. So just giving it time for people to join us. Courtney, I kicked my day off with apple and carrot juice. Goes back to what Charismatic Fiend was saying. You should care about what you put in your body. So I support that 100%. But this first half hour to an hour, we usually spend just chatting about anything while we wait for people to find the stream. Got to find a bit of time for the audience to find the stream. So, and then tonight I've got an interview with Corey. She is a spiritualist. She guides meditation. We're going to talk about the ways in which we can, in Freemasonry, maybe take advantage of things like meditation and potentially support one another in some of the spiritual side of things, our spiritual selves and our meditations. You could even maybe start your Masonic meetings with a couple minutes of meditation, which might be fun. And as a last reminder, please don't forget also, if you are in Windsor, there's another show taking place Friday at the Windsor Masonic Temple. If you get the chance, I hope that you'll go. Tickets are just $20, and it's going to be an excellent show. Four votes, 3 no's, 1 yes to the question of, did you know today is Canadian Agricultural Day? So that's kind of cool. One more person than I thought would know. And because this is the first half hour to an hour, there really is no specific topic. So anything that even you guys want to discuss doesn't have to relate to Freemasonry at all. Let me know, and I'd be happy to chat about it. Yes, so I am going finally back to some live stream. Sorry, I'm finally going back to some long form podcasts after a long time of not doing the podcasting, but just focusing on live streams, which have been terrific. I've loved doing it, but I'm looking forward to getting back to more long stream podcast episodes. This time it will be with Corey. She is with Black Raven Meditation. She's a spiritualist. I'm talking about spiritualism as well as meditation and the ways in which we can use our spiritual practices to maybe find more fulfillment from our Masonic journey. Fulfillment is the best word. But in the meantime, waiting for some other people to join us. If you want to jump on the discussion about mornings and what you guys do in the morning, by all means. Otherwise, anything else we want to talk about? We've actually been on the stream for just about half an hour exactly. We'll give it a bit more time and then we'll switch over and start talking about Freemasonry and agriculture. But as always, if you guys have anything in particular you want to talk about while we're waiting, let me know. Ask me questions about my travels through to Dearborn. That was really, really fun. Dearborn, Michigan is a really cool city. Dearborn Masonic Lodge is a really cool lodge. So getting the chance to be there for that was really special and a lot of fun. I'm just sending some more of these messages to people, seeing if anybody else from the live streams that I've done in the past or from my messages is available and jumping back on. I know a lot of people work during the day. But what we will do, although I do appreciate Charismatic Fiend here being here and listening to this live stream while he is working, that is much, much appreciated. Do Freemasons believe we live in a simulated reality? I mean, the first question would be, do you believe we live in a simulated reality? I mean, I can't speak for every Freemason, right? So there's no like Masonic teaching, if that's the word, in terms of, or Masonic ritual that deals with this idea of whether we live in a simulation or we don't. So every Freemason kind of will make that decision for himself. I know there have been some times when we, after a lodge meeting, I'll be hanging out with a few Masons and topics like that will come up and we'll discuss it. Just kind of like a bullshitting session. I suspect, well, I suspect it doesn't really matter because it kind of begs the question, right? So if you were to say, okay, we live in a simulated reality, well, how do you know that the reality in which our simulation was created, how do you know that that reality is the real world, as opposed to that could just be in and of itself another simulation? And then you could say about the next level and the next level and the next level and the next level, right? I mean, there has to be, in theory, at least one reality that is not simulated, but that actually exists. But how do you determine which one that is, or how anybody determines which one that is very much up for question, right? You don't know. So it's kind of like um, you run into this problem of, if you say, well, this is a simulation and therefore we're going to try to find the real reality. I mean, you'll never know, right? For all we know, it could be a matter of, this is the actual real proper reality, the base reality, if that's what you want to call it, the baseline reality, and we are creating our own simulations through things like video games and stuff, right? So, but to people in the it becomes a very interesting um, question. I don't know that there's a particularly good answer to it. So my suspicion is, yes, we live in a simulation, but because there's no way to know which version of reality is a real version, we might as well just treat this one as a real version. I think it makes just more sense to do it that way, as opposed to kind of worrying about too much. It does create interesting thought experiments, though, questions about like how far can you push the simulation, and could you escape the simulation, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, it creates interesting thought experiments that can potentially, I think, expand the mind and expand the way we think about reality. But I don't know what the practical consequences would actually be, even if we do live in a simulated reality. Although then again, hey, to be fair, I mean, most discoveries of this nature, like scientific discoveries, were created without any practical usages in mind, and end up being very useful. The most famous example, I think, was the electron. If I recall correctly, there was a toast made upon the discovery of the electron, which something to the effect of, the toast was something to the effect of, you know, congratulations on finding the electron, the most useless particle in the world, something to that effect. And now, obviously, electricity, I mean, it's pretty vital to almost everything we do in our day-to-day lives. So maybe searching for the simulation will end up yielding some really strong, practical, useful new technologies or new experiences that we just can't conceive yet. It's why you want to be super careful about not dismissing quote unquote pure research. I think that is incredibly dangerous, because when you say this research doesn't seem to have a practical benefit, I mean, you're really taking a big risk, because you don't always know what the practical benefits of any type particular research will be. So you don't want to, start from a position of doubt and negativity. I think oftentimes that pure research may yield significant practical benefits we just can't see. Same thing with, in some ways, Freemasonry. Anybody who says like there's no practical benefits to Freemasonry, first of all, there are a lot of practical benefits to Freemasonry. I've talked about a lot of those, especially as it relates to the health of a community, the health of individuals in Freemasonry, economic benefits, psychological benefits. So there are a lot of practical benefits to Freemasonry, but even the more ritualistic side of it, the, for lack of a better term, spiritual side of it, there can be some pretty significant practical benefits that we're not necessarily thinking of. Ottawa was my hometown. I wish I still lived there. It's so beautiful, but it's not anymore. Now I'm in Windsor, which I also love very much, and I think Windsor is amazing. But Ottawa was my hometown for a couple of years, and I just got to go back there about 2 months ago, and it was really special to be back. Um, I'm in my own Gnostic adventure right now concerning life. Good. Well, first of all, I'm just happy you're on an adventure. Life is too short to not go on adventures, so I'm glad you're going on an adventure. And let me know as we go through this how we can, as you go through the adventure, maybe let me know what you find. I'd be really interested to know. There you go. I think sometimes when it comes to, life is an adventure in and of itself, but then the process of trying to explore life and learn more about it is an adventure in and of itself. So I think that's pretty special as well. What is wrong with Winnipeg? Nothing. Winnipeg is an awesome, awesome town. I can't wait to be back there in March once again. I actually have to prepare some stuff. I'll be back March 27th. I've actually had a chance. It felt like for a long time I never really visited Winnipeg, unfortunately. I wish that I had visited Winnipeg more. But, I lived there obviously from when I was, born to 21, moved to Ottawa for 2 years, moved back home for a month, then moved to Windsor and kind of stayed in Windsor ever since. It feels like, but it feels like lately, partially thanks to professional wrestling and family and stuff, I've had the chance to visit Winnipeg more often, which I have very much been enjoying. I know we're talking about I'll be back in March. Maybe I won't be back for wrestling, but maybe I can potentially come back in February just for just to say hi to everybody. What would you say is the average salary for the Canadian agricultural farmer? I have no idea. That is a really good question. Maybe we'll look that up at some point. Maybe during this live stream. But I feel like probably not enough when it comes to farmers, although you could say that, I suppose, about anybody. But I know farmers work pretty hard, so good for them. And they definitely deserve at least a day to celebrate them. 5 votes. Did you know that today is Canadian National Agriculture Day? Looks like 4 no's and 1 yeses. So the person who said yes probably spent some time on Twitter, which is where I saw it. As always, if you're just joining us, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And let me know what it is that you want to chat about. Usually, like I said, the first 30 minutes to hour, we just spend hanging out and chilling, and then we go into our actual topic of the day. But that doesn't mean that you guys can't make suggestions for topics themselves. But we've been doing this for about 40 minutes. So I think what I will do is I will get started on the topic. Jump on the chat at any point, though, at any questions you have. So today is, in Canada, Canadian National Agriculture Day. Some really cool connections between Freemasonry and agriculture. And I'm talking about this both in terms of agriculture as in corporate, or not even corporate, but large scale agriculture, large farms, and farming, that especially in Winnipeg and in Canada covers, acres and acres and acres of land, versus smaller agricultural, even what you could consider hobby farming, or even just free gardening, for example. And obviously, I have known, I don't know if anybody else has, but I've been lucky enough to know several Masons who are also farmers themselves. It is a tough way to make a living, but, credit to them. So first of all, I thought it was interesting to note that there is actually a Lodge of Agriculture number 199, which is located in Somerset, United Kingdom. They meet 6:30. January, February, March, April, May, September, October, and November. They meet 6:30 on the third Monday. They were warranted in 1867, and the first meeting of the lodge took place at the Ship and Castle in Congresbury in 1882, moved to the Railway Hotel in Yatton before finally setting in Yatton Masonic Hall. It's one of the largest in Somerset and has sponsored many new lodges. The lodge members, hence agriculture, were predominantly from the farming community, but now our membership has a great cross-section of members from across the community and trades from employed, self-employed, and ex-service members, which allows for an interesting and diverse conversation, especially at our festive boards. What's so interesting is you can see let's see if I can actually, I'm going to share this screen. So you can actually see their crest and its agricultural connections. Give it 1 second so it pops up for you guys. Just waiting for it to show up. There it goes. But you can see the crest here. It's a couple, so it's Lodge of Agriculture number 199 at the top. You can see a field with some plows and then the motto, Godspeed the plow. Once again, connecting to the lodge members, at least when it was formed, being predominantly from the farming community. So that's just one example of, again, Freemasonry and agriculture and the connection between the two, and agriculture and farming members joining the craft in great numbers. Then if you go to the Future Farmers of America, this is an article I found, Origins of FFA Ceremonies, Future Farmers of America. However, let me just find the exact quote. I'm just going to start actually at the top. In September 1925, we're going to start at the top and then work down. I know some, I should send them a message, Courtney, congratulate them on National Farmers Day, because I do know some of my brethren in Essex County. Essex County has a lot of agricultural areas in the county. I should congratulate them on Farmers Day. In September of 1925, Walter S. Newman, the state supervisor of agricultural education in Virginia, met with 3 agricultural education faculty members at Virginia Tech. The 3 faculty members were Harry W. Sanders, Henry C. Grosclose, and Edmund C. Magill. These 4 individuals discussed the desirability of establishing a statewide organization of students enrolled in vocational agriculture. The idea of establishing the Future Farmers of Virginia emerged from that meeting. If you ever visit Virginia Tech, stop by the agricultural education program to see the table around which these individuals met. In addition to having taught agriculture, what else did these 4 individuals have in common? They were all Masons. So the 4 founding members of the Future Farmers of America organization were all themselves Freemasons. Walter Newman was a Master Mason. McGill was a lodge member in Blacksburg. Sanders was affiliated with 2 lodges in Virginia, and Grosclose is identified with a lodge near Virginia. So you had 4 Masons forming a Future Farmers of America organization, or the Future Farmers of America organization. After a decision was made to move forward with the founding of the FFE, Henry Grosclose took the lead in writing the Constitution, degrees, ceremonies. One of the reasons Grosclose had time to do this was because he was hospitalized in Johns Hopkins Hospital. He entered the hospital on November 10th, 1925, left on May 23rd, 1926. During his stay, he had ample time to write the documents that undergirded the FFE and eventually the FFA, the Future Farmers of America. So how do we know FFA ceremonies were based upon the ceremonies used by Masons or Freemasons? In 1995, an article appeared in a Masonic publication that described the FFA Future Farmers of America ceremonies, degrees, gavel use, and other aspects of an FFA meeting with the clear intent of showing how they were similar to the Masons. The author of the article stated, clearly, Freemasonry had a key influence on forming the Virginia Agricultural Boys Association that by 1928 became the Future Farmers of America. It should be noted in discussions of establishing the FAA at a regional agriculture education meetings in 1928, the option of having secret ceremonies was discussed, and the decision was to avoid secret ceremonies. The decision was reinforced at the first Future Farmers of America manual, where the responsibilities of local advisors are described. Avoid any form of secrecy in the organization. Some might claim the FFA ceremonies are similar to those of Grange. Since I'm not a member, I cannot say, however, and I don't, not a member either. Henry Glocos was a Mason and a 7th degree Grange member. It appears that Grosclose used both the Masons and other organizations in ceremonies used by the FFA. Interestingly enough, when you're talking about different officers, here's an interesting connection. So the organization has been influenced by the Masonic ritualist ceremony of the opening meetings. For Masons, our sentinel, our officer at the door, is called a tiler. For another agriculture group, it's called a gatekeeper, and for the FFA, it's called the sentinel. What's interesting is there's also what's called the Grange, which was National Grange of Patrons of Husbandry. The original purpose of the National Grange of Patrons of Husbandry was to promote education and social interaction of farmers, but the goals rapidly expanded to fight monopolies and promote cooperative activities. Several of the Grange's founders were Masons, and they incorporated Masonic elements into the organizational practices. So this leads us directly back to the Masons. We conclude that Future Farmers of America ceremonies were influenced by both the Masons and the Grange. This article was in the Scottish Rite Journal by J. Botcher, Freemasonry and the Future Farmers of America. I'm going to see if I can. Ugh. Let's see if I can actually turn this thing around so I can read this better. I mean, I'm sure farmers pay taxes, probably too much. I don't know what the taxes are for farmers in Canada versus the States. I'm just waiting to see if I can pull up this actual article here to read this from this Journal of Scottish Rite. Here it is. All right, I found it. The Masonic Village Farmers Market. I'm sure they do. I'll look that up and see if I can figure that out. This is not working well. Let's go back to this guy. All right, let's read it from here. Today, so this was Freemasonry and the Future Farmers of America. Freemasonry had a key influence on the forming of the Virginia Agricultural Boys Organization that by 1928 became the Future Farmers of America. Today, as it has for 70 years, the Future Farmers of America, FFA, now called the National FIFA organization, remains with its over 400,000 members on America's cutting edge in developing competent and aggressive agricultural leadership among our nation's youths. Few people know, however, that Freemasonry Freemasonry's relation with the FFA extends back 70 years to the beginning of the organization in Blacksburg, Virginia. It was in 1925 that four men who already were or were soon to become Masons gathered around a place at the Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State in Blacksburg, Virginia, to discuss the idea that eventually became the future farmers of America. Today, a plaque marks this table and commemorates the event, stating, at this table in September 1925, it was determined that boys studying agriculture should have their own organization, now the FFA. Lodge records note the following. Masonic membership, Walter S. Newman. So those are the four members of the four founders of the Future Farmers of America Agricultural Association. Each member was themselves a Freemason, or each founder of the FFA was himself a Freemason. So it does make sense that as they're forming, they're going to connect Masonic rituals and ideals into the Future Farmers of America. In 1925, all were members of the agricultural education staff at VPI, Polytechnic Institute, and Virginia Polytechnic Institute, and very much concerned with reversing the trend of country youths abandoning the land and moving into the city. Henry Grosbeet, who initiated the idea of bringing local youths and agricultural fraternity, expressed mission of the group in these words. In my opinion, the farm boy of Virginia who are enrolled in vocational agriculture are equal to any other group of boys in the state. Which I'd agree with, by the way. But sometimes, let me just see if I can actually increase this a little bit. But somehow with the boys themselves seem to have a feeling of inferiority, especially in his true, especially is this true when the farm boy goes to the city and has to compete with his city cousin. This condition should not exist. I believe that a strong organization of our boys in agriculture would help them to overcome this handicap. Let's form an organization that will give them greater opportunity for self-expression and for the development of leadership. In this way, they will develop confidence in their own ability and pride in the fact that they are farm boys. Henry Grosclose, brother Henry Grosclose, was chosen to devise the fledgling organization's constitution and bylaws, as well as its designation of officers and its delegates of membership. The results of his efforts were so worthy that the FFA's constitution and bylaws have remained essentially unchanged since that time. There's a little Masonic connection there. Of greatest interest, however, are the original degrees and rituals of the Future Farmers of America. They reveal a close similarity to like elements in Freemasonry and clearly suggest that the founders of the Future Farmers of America modeled the new organization along Masonic lines. Consider these following similarities. As originally conceived, the members of the Future Farmers of America, or Future Farmers of Virginia, became Future Farmers of America, could aspire to the degrees Green Hand, Virginia Farmer, and Virginia Planter. These, of course, parallel Freemasonry, entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. Originally, the founders did not conceive of a national degree level. Today, however, the FFA degrees number 4. Green Hand, Chapter, State, Green Hand, Chapter, State, and American. Chapter officers, president, vice president, advisor, secretary, treasurer, and reporter, memorize set opening and closing ceremonies. And a gavel is used by the president to control chapter meetings. 2 taps represent a call to order. 3 signals members to be seated. 3 taps is a signal for members to stand, and 1 signals members to be seated. Sounds very similar to Masonic usage of a gavel. Also, 3 knocks at the chapter door are used to gain entrance. Sounds pretty Masonic. All meetings close with the Pledge of Allegiance, which is an American thing, but I have seen that, to the flag. A sentinel is stationed at the door to prevent intrusions. In the earlier 1930 version of the Future Farmers of America degrees, the officer of this general role was titled the Farm Watchdog. I think we should call our Tylers the Watchdogs. I think that would be cooler than Tyler myself. I would take that title. Various symbols represent each officer. Sentinel, a shield representing friendship. Treasurer, a picture or bust of George Washington representing thrift. Reporter, an American flag denoting patriotism. Advisor, an owl representing wisdom. Secretary, an ear of yellow corn representing plenty, which is a Masonic symbol as well, the ear of corn. Labor, president, vice president, a plow representing labor. President, the rising sun, which represents progress, or the progress of a new day, which we talked about the mornings and the symbolism of that as a new day. For American Farm Youth through the FFA. In each of the original degrees, as stated in the 1930 FMA manual, the candidate travels from one officer to the next, receiving from each a specific charge. After accepting each charge, the candidate is ordered to pass on to the next post, where he receives another charge, ending finally with the charge given to him by the president. During the initiation ceremony for Green Hands, as noted in the 1930 FFA, Future Farmers of America Manual, the candidates are admitted after proper qualifications and preparation, carrying a hay rope in their left hand and wearing a cardboard green hand over their hearts. 2 conductors carry either end of the rope. Interesting to note the rope. Chief James McInnes, sup? Thank you, Chief James, for joining us. Thank you so much for being here. We today are talking about the connections between Freemasonry and agriculture. We talked about the Lodge of Agriculture or Agriculture Lodge in Somerset, England, named obviously because initially its members were all involved in farming. And then we are talking about the connections between the Future Farmers of America, which was an organization founded in Virginia in 1928 to give young men in the agricultural field a fraternity, and the connection between the Future Farmers of America and Freemasonry. The founders of the Future Farmers of America were all themselves Freemasons, which creates some really interesting parallels. But Chief James, let me know how you're doing. Let me know also if there's anything that you want to talk about. We'll be having a senior wardens night next Tuesday in Chatham at Wellington Victory. If you can make, we're putting on a second degree. We're having a senior wardens night next Tuesday. You know, I might be able to make that. Let me just check quickly. I can't make any promises. What are you expecting in terms of your numbers, if you don't mind my asking? 7:30 p.m. Do you know if anybody else, you don't have to mention names, you can maybe shoot me off a message. Anybody else from Essex might be joining? Or just Windsor or Essex County in general? But actually, I like the second degree a lot. Second degrees, I think, are a lot of fun. And I think typical middle child tradition, right? The second degree oftentimes gets overlooked. Interesting enough, why not? I'll mention this in the Future Farmers of America. Their second degree was the Virginia farmer. So the initial 3 degrees would be green hand, which would be entered apprentice, Virginia farmer, which would be fellowcraft, and and Virginia planter, which would be master mason. So interesting kind of connection there. I'll have to see if I can make it. I'm a big fan of Chatham. I'm not sure, but there is a group of York guys that come to my restaurant. They are from Essex to Ridgetown. I think I invited them. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've heard about that. I have very fond memories of Ridgetown because I once went to a Grandmaster's reception in Ridgetown, and they had absolutely delicious. I remember it. I remember the meal wasn't that great, to be honest, but they had a dessert table filled like to the brim with all sorts of pies and desserts. It was absolutely delicious. So I have fond memories of Ridgetown for that reason. Um, by the way, Chef, I was wondering, as you got you here for 1 second, would you be, or do you know about the contest we are having? And if you don't, I'm going to tell you about that quickly before I go back to my. When I say we, I mean Square and Compass Promotions. Myself is having. Which I'm going to talk about before I go back to my discussion on Freemasonry and the Future Farmers of America, and Freemasonry and agriculture in general. So, do tell. So I will. I would be happy to. I just got to. What I'm going to do is share the screen in just 1 second. So if you go to. All right, here we go. If you go to this link, patreon.com/square and compass, and sign up for the Square and Compass Patreon. You can sign up for any level, including you can sign up to be a member for free. You will be entered into a draw to win a scale model Windsor Masonic Temple. To my knowledge, it's the only scale model Masonic building in existence, which seems like a very much a wasted opportunity. Excuse me. I wish there were more of them. If you're curious as to what that looks like, I'm going to share the screen so you can see it in just 1 second. Do not have a national George Washington National Memorial Day in Canada for obvious reasons. Having said that, though, we still have to respect George Washington, not only for being the first president of the United States, but also the first president who was also a Mason of the United States, which is a cool little fact. So, Chef, this is the scale model of the Masonic Temple. You can enter the contest for free, or you can pay $1 a month or whatever you want. You know, there's different levels, but you can pick your own level. And by all means, jump in the contest and potentially win a scale model Masonic building. The draw will happen on Valentine's Day. This is a great building to include in train sets or Christmas villages. It lights up from the inside. So that is really cool. So yeah, I hope that you will enter into the contest. And actually, Chef, you mentioned, just as I'm talking here, you mentioned that obviously you have a restaurant, you're a chef. So I'm guessing you especially would be maybe even more aware than anybody else about the importance of agriculture and our farmers in Canada, right? Because I'm guessing you are dealing a lot with farmers in terms of things like fresh produce for your restaurant. So yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on National Agriculture Day at all here in Canada, or just any thoughts on agriculture in general and the importance of agriculture to our food supply. If you do, you feel free to throw something down in the chat. And also let me know, because I forget the name of it, the name of your restaurant. Because if nothing else, maybe I'll have to make sure I get the chance to go and check it out. And we're going to give it one more minute. Everybody hit the like and subscribe button. Please hit that subscribe button. And we'll go back to talking about Freemasonry and the future farmers of America, or the connection between Freemasonry and agriculture. But that doesn't mean I do want to make sure you guys feel free to jump in the chat, ask me any questions you have. I'll do my best to answer them. And everybody also keep in mind what James said. They have a second degree coming up next Tuesday. If you're Essex, Windsor, Ontario, by all means, see if you can check it out. Chatham's a great district. To be honest, our national supplier that we use does a good job of sourcing local ingredients for us, and at their wholesale cost, it's significantly cheaper than what most farmers want when you buy direct. Okay, but so you're still, you're still sourcing local ingredients, which I think to me is the key, right, element of it. It's local ingredients. It's the importance of local ingredients, the importance of farm fresh ingredients, that type of thing, right? I think is the key. Yeah. So I've been to Casabella a couple times, or maybe just once. Great restaurant though. Food was absolutely delicious. If anybody gets the chance, for heaven's sakes, go to Casabella. It's really, really good. You're not going to regret it. I remember when I was there, I had the fish. Speaking of, yesterday we talked about my favorite food being fish. So, gonna give a shout out to them. Is there going to be at the Tuesday's Senior Wardens Night? Is there going to be a meal at Casabella, either before or after, or maybe I'll have to go there for a meal beforehand, anyways, just in case, because I don't know when the trains arrive there. Yeah, maybe that's when I was there before, but really, really delicious food. Absolutely delicious. I remember I thought it was beautiful behind too, because it was right on not the London Thames, but the Thames River, and going through Chatham, if I recall, is beautiful. So get the chance, go to Casabella. It's worth it. So we talked here about the connections between Freemasonry and the Future Farmers of America. Interestingly enough, the Future Farmers of America have their own creed, which I suppose would be similar to a Masonic oath or obligation. No, but I'm personally supplying dinner after. That's another reason to want to get there on Tuesday. I believe in the beauty of God's open country, that life out of doors and in touch with the earth is natural life of man. I believe that, so once again, this is the Future Farmers of America Country Boys Creed. Let's see if we can find any connections to Freemasonry. I believe that work is work wherever we find it, but that work with nature is most inspiring and challenging. I believe that the dignity of labor depends not so much upon what you do as upon how you do it, that opportunity comes to a boy on the farm as often as to a boy in the city, that life on the farm may be full, happy, and free, and that a prosperous agriculture is essential to our national welfare. That my success depends not upon my location, but upon myself, not upon my dreams, but what I actually do, not upon luck, but upon pluck. There's probably some connections there, I feel like, between the lessons of, between this creed and this idea and some of our Masonic tools, especially in the first degree. What it says there, that my success depends not upon my location, but upon myself, not upon my dreams, but what I actually do, not upon luck, but upon pluck, which I would suggest perhaps we should think to our, in Freemasonry, our common gavel, and to a certain extent, our chisel. I believe in working when I work and in playing when I play, in giving and demanding a square deal, got that square in there in every facet, in every act of life. Going to bookmark this to watch later. Need to go. By all means, I hope that you will. And any connections that you can think of between Freemasonry and agriculture, please let me know in the chat to anybody watching this. So I'm going to go back a little bit. I'm going to go back to this part here. Various symbols represent each officer. Sentinel, a shield representing friendship. Treasurer, a picture or bust of George Washington, a Mason, representing thrift. Reporter, an American flag representing patriotism. Advisor, an owl representing wisdom. Secretary, an ear of yellow corn, another Masonic symbol representing plenty. Vice President, a plow representing labor. President, the rising sun, also Masonic, representing progress. A new day for American farm youth to the FFA. I'm a bit of a city boy, LOL, says Spirit of Justice. I am too, don't worry. I am a city boy through and through. But, it's nice to show some what's the word? Nice to show some love to in Freemasonry, to our rural brothers. And our rural people, and the people who grow the food for us, Food does not come from the store as much as we may think it does. Food comes from the ground and makes its way to us, or comes its way from living things that come to us. So either way, we should always keep that in mind. So in each of the original Future Farmers of America degrees, the candidate travels from one officer to the next, receiving from each a specific charge. After accepting each charge, the candidate is ordered to pass on to the next post, where he receives another charge, ending finally with the charge given him by the president. During the initiation ceremony for George Hands, as noted in the 1930 FFA manual, the candidates are admitted after proper qualifications and preparation, carrying a hay rope in their left hand and wearing a cardboard green hand over their hearts. 2 conductors carry either end of the rope. So there's some definite Masonic connections there. All candidates must be able to recite the Country Boys Creed, which I just read, from memory work, and are raised from one degree to the next and are invested with the degree. James Roberts, my dad was a Mason. Welcome, James. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't done so yet, I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. I'm not sure if you've been on the stream before, but if you haven't, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me know if there's anything you want to talk about. Right now, we're talking about the connections between Freemasonry and agriculture, but the beautiful thing about these streams is I'm happy to chat about anything that you want to talk about. So I've been a Mason since 2007. I don't know everything about Freemasonry by any means. I certainly don't claim to, but I try my best to know at least a few things. So hopefully I can try to answer your questions. James, if you have any questions about Freemasonry in general, please let me know. And please hit that like and subscribe button if you can. Doesn't corn represent something? Yes, corn represents, not just in Freemasonry, but in a lot of things, it represents plenty. Represents kind of, you could almost argue, represents abundance in some ways, or plenty. So yeah, that's what corn represents. So it makes sense that it would be represented in an agricultural organization. They grow a lot of corn in the States. It also makes sense that they would, Masons would include it in that Freemasons, when creating another fraternal order or organization, would themselves include it in the FFA, Future Farmers of America. Hello, all. Bouncing in and bouncing out. Have to run and see what my taxes. No worries at all. We appreciate you bouncing in and out. Thank you so much, CD, for being here. Let's go back to this. But as always, James, anybody jump in the chat, say any questions you have. I'll do my best to answer them. During the green hand degree, and some of this I'm not going to say how it connects to Freemasonry. I kind of will leave it up to you guys to, if you are Mason, to figure it out And if you're not, maybe that will encourage you to want to join. During the Green Hand degree, or what we call entered apprentice, candidates are initially blindfolded as the hooded future farmer degree candidate is guided around the chapter room by his conductor. He meets obstructions. Yes, it is mentioned the second degree. The chapter room by his conductor, he meets obstructions. At set points, each candidate is stopped by members representing ignorance, waste, indolence, and isolation, respectively by putting their hands on the shoulders of the candidate as the latter approached him. Each stop announces who he is. I am ignorance. I block your progress, etc. Overcoming these blocks, the candidate continues on his journey and receives charges from wisdom, the advisor, thrift, the treasurer, labor, the vice president, and cooperation, the president. The following passage quotes the latter encounter in full from the published 1930 Officers of the Future Farmers of America Manual. Cooperation. Break the fiber which I have given you. Candidate breaks fibers. Just so will you be broken if you remain in isolation, as your forefathers have been. I shall now give you a rope. Break this also. Candidates attempts one at a time to break the rope, but being unable to do so, the rope passed to the left until all have tried. Why were you unable to break this rope? Conductor, you had several fibers bending together. It was impossible to break the fibers when they were bound together. Cooperation. You have spoken the truth. Our organization is bound together even as this rope. Together we shall achieve great things. Together we shall serve our fellow men. My symbol is the rising sun. He shakes hands with the candidates. Remember that cooperation is our fourth great ideal, and that he who serves best must first learn how to work with others. Thousands of future farmers of America are ready to cooperation with you in improving and enlarging our organization. The spirit of cooperation engendered in the Future Farmers Chapters of America will live with us after we leave this school. When we are all working together in this community, in this state, and in America, a new day will indeed have dawned. Let us all work together and hasten the coming of the rising sun. So obviously, I think the general Masonic principle there as it relates to cooperation is obvious in any fraternal order and organization, but especially Freemasonry. It may be argued that the above symbols and actions are not exclusively Masonic and could have been derived, I should say, from the formats of other academic, professional, social, and agricultural fraternities existing at the time. The fact remains, however, that all four founders of what became the Future Farmers of America were or soon became Masons. Also, at the time of the Future Farmers of America, degrees were first written. Their content strongly suggests ties with Freemasonry in form and content. Sounds like the Holy Spirit, says James Roberts. James, if you could expand on that a little bit. I don't know a lot about the Holy Spirit. I'd be very curious to kind of learn more about that idea and where that kind of is coming from. By all means, if you can let me know, perhaps, again, where it is that, what makes you think Holy Spirit? I would love to know. Very, very much so. Fruits of the Spirit is the opposite of those. Okay. Peace. Did you mentioned that your dad also was a Mason, I think, if I'm not mistaken. If you can let me know maybe what lodge he was from, I'd be curious, or at least where he was a Mason, I'd be very interested to know. I love learning about family connections with Freemasonry. Um, Clearly, Freemasonry had a key influence on the forming of the Virginia Agricultural Boys Organization. That by 1928 became the Future Farmers of America, though considerable disagreement exists among Virginia teachers of vocational agriculture as to where the first FFA chapter was organized. Rural Retreat, Virginia, claims to be the first. This claim, made in spite of the fact that the Ways Cave chapter possesses charter number 1. This difference probably resulted from delays involved in setting up each organization. Charters were not issued in the same orders as the applications were received. According to Future Farmers of America records, Rural Retreat was the first to organize and make applications. In any case, the movement grew quickly. An emblem was drawn by Brother Henry Grosclose and Right Worshipful Brother Klein, a graduate student at Virginia Polytechnic Institute, and then approved for the Future Farmers of Virginia by the Virginia Teachers of Vocational Agriculture at their annual conference held in 1927. All Masonic brethren can be proud of the role Freemasons and Freemasonry have played in the founding of the Future Farmers of America. It is a tradition we must continue to build on today and extend to tomorrow. Whilst we have been a part of the Future Farmers of America's golden past, Masonry can also be part of its bright future. Three Rivers, Michigan Masonic Lodge 49093. So Michigan. Okay, I'm from Windsor, Ontario. So I am very, very close to Michigan. I live right across the river. Let me see how far Three Rivers is actually from Michigan. Or sorry, how far Windsor is from Three Rivers, I should say. It's really cool. I love Michigan, by the way. I think Michigan is an absolutely incredible state. I've actually written about my travels to Michigan and how much I enjoy it. Interestingly, it reminds me a little bit, Three Rivers, the name of Winnipeg, because in Winnipeg we have the Forks, which is where two rivers meet. So let's see. Yes, I agree. The UP is beautiful. I sadly have never made it. So it looks like Three Rivers is actually south of Kalamazoo. So it's closer to Indiana. The furthest north I've ever made it in Michigan it would be Bay City, which is about 2 hours north of Detroit, give or take. So that's as far as I've made it. I want to make it further. There's actually some really interesting Masonic lodges up in the UP that I really want to visit, but haven't had the chance to yet. So that's on my list of places I want to visit for sure. Three Rivers is actually a small town. Let's see. Population was 7,973 at the time of the 2020 census. Order of the Free Gardeners. Yes, I came across that as well. I think Future Farmers America seems to be the most connected. Then there's the Lodge of Agriculture out of Somerset. But then there's the Order of Free Gardeners. The symbolism used by Free Gardeners was influenced by Freemasonry in the 19th century. The emblem of the Free Gardeners includes a square, a compass, and a grafting knife, excuse me. I'm going to see if I can actually find their... So obviously, I'm going to share this on Wikipedia, but obviously if you're a Mason and you're watching this, you're going to be able to recognize the Masonic connections. Let's give it a few minutes for it to pop up. Let's see. Give it a second for it to share. My internet being a little bit slow. There it is. Hopefully you guys can see it. Let me know if you can. Anybody looking at this, I mean, if that is not a Masonic symbol, I don't know what is. The Order of Free Gardeners is a fraternal society that was founded in Scotland in the middle of the 17th century and later spread to England and Ireland. Like numerous other friendly societies of the time, its principal aim was the sharing of secret knowledge linked to the profession and mutual aid. And mutual insurance. That's true of Freemasonry. That's true of almost any of these groups. In 1849, the Ancient Order of Free Gardeners in Scotland formed at Penicuik. In 1956, due to the failing attendance in Scotland, the Grand Lodge Charter was transferred to Cape Town, South Africa. Although Free Gardeners have always been independent Freemasonry, the history and organization of the two orders shows numerous similarities. Some commentators have pointed to possible mutual influences in the ancient history of the two organizations. The most ancient evidence of the order is the record of minutes of Haddington Lodge, opened 1676, which begins a compilation of 15 rules called Interjunctions for Ye Fraternity of Gardeners of East Lothian. Scotland was, in the 17th century, subject to civil unrest and intermittent famines. Rich landowners were interested in Renaissance architecture and the design of formal gardens for the vast estates. The first members of Haddington Lodge were not gardeners by profession, but small landowners and farmers who practiced gardening for pleasure. Not practicing an urban profession, they could not obtain the status of incorporation and model their organization on the Masons who had an organization additional to and independent of their incorporation, the Lodge. So basically, it was a primitive form of trade union set up at that time. So you look at the Free Gardener regalia on display here. Once again, if that is not Masonic, right? You notice right there. Pretty obviously some Masonic symbolism. So what's interested here, the friendly societies, otherwise known as social groups, this has been talked about in Join or Die by the movie based on the book Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. Right, these disappearances are part of a wider social change. In 1950, there were around 30,000 friendly societies in the United Kingdom, while in 2000, there were fewer than 150. In 2000, the research of R. Cooper counted no more than a single lodge in Bristol for Great Britain, but mentioned the survival of the Order of Free Gardeners in Antilles, Caribbean British Order of Free Gardeners, and in Australia. As of 2013, the Grand United Order of Free Gardeners still operates in Victoria, Australia, and East Kew Masonic Center. Masonic, right? It meets monthly under the auspices of Victorian Grand Lodge Number 1 and is the only known lodge operating in the Southern Hemisphere. In 2020s, Free Gardeners experienced a significant growth spurt with new lodges being formed in Germany and Edmonton, Canada, and elsewhere with the lineage back to Scottish Grand Lodge. So here's kind of some of those connections. The oldest known mention of the existence, in the Order of Free Gardeners, there it is. The oldest known mention of the existence of initiation secret in this order, Order of Free Gardeners, appears on 28th of January, 1726, when the fraternity studied an internal complaint that accused one of its members of defaming certain of its officers and saying they could not correctly give its words and signs. In 1772, other documents established that the fraternity of Free Gardeners had words and secrets, An 1848 document mentions teaching in the form of signs, secrets, and grips. Historians have at their disposal complete rituals of the apprentice, companion, master dating from 1930. Minutes of the lodges show that the ritual of the order progressively developed from a fairly basic ceremony of transmission of the word at its very beginnings to a system of 3 grades, similar to that of Freemasonry at the end of the 19th century. A conference of 1873 indicates that free gardening used the cultivation of soil as the symbol of the nurturing spirit of intelligence and virtue, made reference to the Garden of Eden. So here's kind of the key thing we discussed. Generally, the symbolism used by the free gardeners seems to have been strongly influenced during the 19th century by that of Freemasonry. On numerous objects of the order dating from the very beginning of the 20th century, one finds an emblem composed of a square, a compass, and a grafting knife. As there is no trace of this emblem in early documents, it is probable that it has also been inspired lately by that of Freemasonry. And here's some of the comparisons. In the 1720s, Scotland had a profusion of societies, fraternities, and clubs. Freemasonry and the Order of Free Gardeners are merely those that spread the furthest and lasted the longest, and in the case of Freemasonry, still last to this day. Those two orders present important similarities concerning their organization and development. Both were born in Scotland in the middle of the 17th century among groups of professional workers who very quickly accepted members from other professions. In both cases, members of the original profession became minorities from the beginning of the 18th century. So basically saying the speculatives started to outrank the operatives. In both orders, also, certain lodges opened very rapidly to accepted members, and in particular to the local nobility, whereas others, like that of Haddington for the Free Gardeners and Edinburgh for the Freemasons, are more reticent. Almost all known members who belonged to the two orders were Free Gardeners before becoming Freemasons. The largest group of Free Gardeners who later became Freemasons joined Kilwinning Scots Masonic Lodge, founded in 1729. There were 9 members of the Free Gardeners Dunfermline Lodge. None of them were gardeners by trade. They were aristocrats and soldiers. Freemasonry expanded rapidly in England after the creation of the Grand Lodge in London in 1717 across the entire world. On the other hand, the Order of Free Gardeners remained principally Scottish. In both cases, the Scottish lodges seemed to have difficulties grouping together into larger structures called Grand Lodges. In the case of the Order of the Free Gardeners, the first Grand Lodge formed in 1849, and 15 lodges remained independent until the disappearance of the order. In both cases, it is in the particular lodges founded before the Grand Lodge that remained the most reluctant to renounce their independence. So another really interesting connection between Freemasonry and agriculture. Freemasonry, in this case, might be more hobby agriculture. Thank you, CD. By the way, we've had 12 votes. Did you know that Did you know that today is Did you know that today is Canadian National Agricultural Day? 83% no, 17% yes. So the no's are still well in the lead. But it was interesting, and this is something kind of I didn't even thought of. So both Freemasonry and the Order of Free Gardeners started in Scotland in the 17th century. Both were a situation where you had professional trade union, basically professional guild, allowing non-professionals to join, and over time the non-professionals outnumbered the professionals, which is very interesting. I wonder one of the reasons that potentially Freemasonry lasted so much longer and is, even though it's struggling, it did so much better than the Order of Free Gardeners in terms of length of time it lasted, was because the Free Gardeners did not form Grand Lodges as quickly or as successfully as Freemasons did, looking particularly at 1717. Then there is also the National Grange of the Order of Patrons of Husbandry. Which dates to 1867. The National Grange is a social organization that is a social organization in the United States that encourages families to band together to form the economic and political well-being of the community and agriculture. The Grange, founded after the Civil War in 1867, is the oldest American agricultural advocacy group with a national scope. The Grange actively lobbied state legislatures and Congress for political goals such as the Granger Laws to lower rates charged by railroads and rural free mail delivery by the post office. The farmers and the train people were fighting, Dad, it looks like. In 2005, the Grange had a membership of 160,000 with organizations in 2,100 communities in 36 states, headquartered in Washington, D.C. Interestingly enough, Andrew Johnson, I guess, was the president who first founded, for lack of a better term, not founded, but made the direction to do an interview as to study the potential for the creation of the order. And he himself was a Freemason, Andrew Johnson. One of the presidents was a Freemason, initiated in Greenville Lodge in Greenville, Tennessee. As of 2024, the Grange continues to press for causes of farmers, including issues of free trade and farm policy. But here is an interesting point. When the Grange first began in 1867, once again, the Grange being a social group in America designed to advocate for the needs of farmers and the farming community, it borrowed some of its rituals and symbols from Freemasonry, including oaths, secret meetings, and special passwords necessary. Actually, Dad, before you go, this is interesting. When the Grange first began in 1867, it borrowed some of its rituals and symbols from Freemasonry, including oaths, secret meetings, and special passwords necessary to keep railroad spies out of their meetings. So Freemasons are constantly trying to keep out Cowans and eavesdroppers. The Grange, since 1867, has been constantly trying to keep out railroad spies from their meetings. It also copied ideas from Greek, Roman, and biblical mythology. Small ceremonial farm tools are often displayed at Grange meetings. Elected officers are in charge of opening and closing each meeting. There are 7 degrees of Grange membership. The ceremony of each degree relates to seasons and various symbols and principles. So that is really cool. So again, I think to kind of give a rough example of what we've talked about when it comes to Freemasonry and agriculture, first you have some lodges that had heavy membership from farming communities, such as the Agriculture Lodge in Somerset, England, which has as its crest a symbol of people plowing the land with oxen and a statement saying, you know, the plow shall not fail. Then you have the Future Farmers of America, which is a youth group founded in Virginia, which was meant to promote agricultural learning amongst the youth of Virginia and America. That group was founded in 1925 by 4 men, all of whom were Masons, and much of the symbolism, the degree structures, the organization of the Future Farmers of America is either Masonic in origin or at least has significant ties to Freemasonry. Then you also have the Free Gardeners, the Order of Free Gardeners, which was founded in Scotland around the same time as you saw Freemasonry. And it was basically a trade union or union guild for smaller farmers or gardeners or agricultural practitioners, just like Freemasons were for stonemasons. And the Free Gardeners formed much of a similar pattern as to Freemasons in terms of allowing non-gardeners or non-agricultural men to join. And over time, they outnumbered the actual practicing free gardeners. And they still exist to this day, though in much significantly smaller numbers than the early 17th century. And then you have the National Grange, the social organization encouraging families to band together to promote the economic and political well-being of community and agriculture. Founded in 1867, a Freemason and President Andrew Johnson was integral in the creation of the Grange. And the Grange took many ideas and symbols from Freemasonry, including the use of passwords and passcripts, to keep out spies. In their case, it was railroad spies because farms and railroads were at odds over the use of the land, obviously. And so I think those are some fascinating connections between Freemasonry and agriculture. And then also, it's really just worth noting again, where does the food come from, right? Many Freemasons themselves are farmers, but also Freemasons, we have our receptions, we have our banquets, we have our dinners after lodge or before lodge. The agriculture is vital to that part of the craft. So there you go. I hope that was at least somewhat interesting for you guys. Today, after all, is National Agriculture Day. And as we've discussed, there are some very, very fascinating connections between Freemasonry and agriculture. Did you know today is Canadian National Agriculture Day? No, 77%. Yes, 23%. So the no's are still well in the lead. I'm going to end this poll for a second. If in terms of maybe, I'm curious if there are a list of farmers who are also Freemasons. In the meantime, jump in the chat. Anything you guys want to talk about? If you're just joining us, jump in the chat, say hi. I am a Freemason. I've been one since 2007. I don't know everything by any means, but hopefully I can at least try to answer some questions people have. Today, we are talking about Freemasonry and agriculture and agricultural groups, because today in Canada is National Agriculture Day. So if you haven't done so yet, thank a farmer for keeping food on your table. Interestingly enough, there's actually a Masonic Village farm, which is kind of cool. In Elizabethtown. Did you know Masonic Village had the first beef herd in Lancaster County in 1990? Masonic Village Farm got serious about the beef business, according to farmer Frank. They bought Byland Strong Box as a calf to begin breeding shorthorns, a virtually untapped market in this part of the country at the time. 30 years later, they had 170 cow calves in the spring. In addition to quality cattle, Masonic Village Farm also raised up some of the next generation of agriculture professionals. Masonic Village Farm is in its 20th year of hosting interns from the local high school agricultural programs or the Future Farmers of America chapters. Of the 20 people I know, 15 of them are still in agriculture. I'm proud they got a part of their education here. It's been a real joy to work with these kids and have them come through our program, Farmer Frank said. The recipe, blue sky, green grass equals red meat. Sounds about right. Masonic Village Farm Market's website. I'm actually going to post this, or I'm going to share this screen in just 1 second. This is definitely worth liking as well. This is in Pennsylvania. Looks like, I mean, they still got their Facebook page. Let me just share the screen so people can check it out. Give it 1 second for it to pop up for you guys. this was February 7th. So it is still active. Don't forget, Apple Seconds are buy one, get one free. This will go away after this weekend. Beat the snow Saturday and then stay in and make some applesauce, over 10 varieties to choose from. Looks like Masonic Village and Farm Market has got some pretty great produce. So if you get the chance and you're around, I would strongly encourage you guys to check them out. In the meantime, I will take a few minutes to, I'm going to, just for fun, let's try something completely different. Hold on just one sec. I'm going to ask another poll question. Why? Because we talked about this before. So why not have some fun? Do you think we are living in a simulation? Yes or no? Let me know in the, okay, we got one yes right away too. That was a quick yes. So I'm still happy, and I do, if anybody wants to jump back on and talk about Freemasonry and agriculture, let me know. Let me know what you thought of the topic. Did you find it interesting? Do you have any questions about it? I can't guarantee you I know the answers, but hopefully I can look and find them. But that doesn't mean that there isn't still a lot of other fun things to talk about. So we got this is just a fun kind of philosophical exercise, but we can talk about anything else you guys want to chat about. So please jump in the chat and let me know what it is that you want to talk about. 2 votes, both say yes. All right, so there you go. I'd probably say, I don't know. I'd say yes as well, though the question is, how would we know? Raised eyebrow, welcome back. Thank you, as always, for jumping in. I very much appreciate it. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know if you want to talk about anything as it relates to Freemasonry, any thoughts you have. We were talking about the connections between Freemasonry and agriculture. There's a lot of really interesting ones worth sharing, but that doesn't mean that's all we want to talk about. Just for fun, we're asking the question, do you think we're living in a simulation? I'm not sure how that connects to Freemasonry yet, but I'm sure I can think of something. But in the meantime, please hit that like, subscribe button, answer the poll question, and let me know, what do you want to talk about? I think the most fun part of these streams is getting the chance to talk about just whatever we want to. But yeah, super fascinating discussions on Freemasonry and agriculture. Freemasonry has been significantly connected to the formation of at least 3 agricultural support and advocacy groups: the Future Farmers of America, the National Grange Association for Husbandry, and the Order of Free Gardeners. There are many Masonic lodges where the majority of membership is agriculture based or is formed that way. So that's fascinating as well. So yeah, and there's actually a few Masonic farmers market out there. So interesting thing to talk about. Having said that, do you think we're living in a simulation? Yes or no? The maybe coolest person I ever saw talk about this was Nick Bostrom. He has this whole thing about it. So some say the odds are 50%. Yeah, I think that's possible. It's interesting. I mean, I don't know, right? Like what the odds would actually be, how you'd even estimate that. I think some people have said, like, I think Elon Musk, I'm no huge Elon Musk fan or anything, but I think he talked about it and said the odds are actually like 1,000,000,000 to 1 or something like that. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to say. I don't know what the answer is. Here's the question though. Like, so again, I talked about this before on the stream as well. I highly question or how do I put this? Like, so I'm not a person who believes that every question needs to have an obvious practical answer to it. Like, because people will say, okay, why study this? Why research this? There's no practical application. But I don't think you need a practical application of something in order to study it, right? I think that is kind of a mistake to view it that way, because you never know what the practical applications will be. But I do often think about, okay, what are the actual practical applications as it relates to Freemason, like to this question of a simulation? If we were to study it and let's say try to find a way to escape the simulation or look for it, would there be practical benefits to it? I feel like there might be. I just can't think what they would be, but I feel like they could open up new types of research, new types of science, new types of learning, new types of technology, even help us think about our place in the world in a very different way, which I think would be fascinating as well. So because we have so many, so the argument goes, because I mean, this is an interesting kind of Masonic connection to it as well, right? This idea of like, because the universe seems to have an order to it, seems to have some type of consistency, for lack of a better word. I guess this isn't even wrong, for just seems to have some type of consistency. It it lends itself to the belief that it is a simulation, because it's basically the other way to put it or think about it is the laws which under which we operate, or under which the universe operates, are basically equivalent to coding in a simulation. It's possible. I think there's probably a valid point to that. Oh, another vote. 1 no. Looks like 3 yeses and 1 no. David Holmes. Welcome, David. Thank you for joining us. Please take a moment before I answer your question. If you can, hit that like and subscribe button. I would much appreciate it. I hail from, well, I guess 4 lodges. I am currently the worshipful master of Border Cities Lodge number 554, located in Windsor, Ontario. I am also the past master of Windsor Lodge number 403 and Harmony Lodge number 579, both out of Windsor, Ontario. And I am a affiliate member of Lodge Holy Land number 50 out of Tel Aviv, Israel. And I'm hoping to become an affiliate member soon of the Lodge of Tranquility out of Texas. David, brother, welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. If you don't mind my asking, can you let me know how you came across our stream? Was it recommended by the algorithm? And also, please hit that like and subscribe button. Leonardo Borges, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome. I'm not sure how much you came across before, but David, Leonardo, if you would like, I can kind of go back and discuss the connections between Freemasonry and agriculture, because today in Canada is National Agriculture Day, and there's a lot of fascinating connections between Freemasonry and agriculture. A lot that people wouldn't even realize. So we talked about that for the last hour or so. Now we're just kind of shooting the shit, and somebody earlier was talking about whether or not we lived in a simulation. So I put that up on the poll question just for fun. David Holmes, just searching YouTube of Freemason. Well, thank you, YouTube, I guess, for recommending the stream. David, I've been a Mason since 2007. I started Square and Compass Promotions as a way to talk about the ways in which Freemasonry is relevant to the communities in which it's located, as well as posting stories of Masonic interest. And so with that in mind, I do these live streams and try to talk about Freemasonry. So David, let me know if you have any questions about Freemasonry. It looks like you're a Mason yourself, but maybe there's not even questions, just things you want to talk about as it relates to the craft. I'd love to know what those are and anything you want to talk about. Or answer the poll question. Let me know why you thought that way. For the first time, I received recommendation among other Masonic channels. Great. Well, thank you, YouTube, for doing the recommendation. That is much appreciated as well. And David, I do have right now a contest going on, which I can let you know about if you're interested. Interesting. 5 votes. Do you think we're living in a simulation? Yes, 80%. No, 20%. Yeah. So Leonardo, I'm going to get to your statement in just 1 second because I think it's really valuable. But before that, David, I'm currently transitioning from FC to FC from my EA degree. Congratulations. For what it's worth, I hope you don't mind if I give you a couple pieces of advice. You know, I've heard somebody say that unrequested advice is always criticism, which this isn't criticism because I don't know you. I promise. I just want to give you a couple pieces of advice for whatever it's worth. First, this is going to sound super general. Enjoy it. A lot of people, in my experience, I guess you could call this the middle child syndrome, rush to get from the entered apprentice degree to the master mason degree, and they kind of forget about the lessons of the fellowcraft degree. But I think there's a lot of really valuable lessons in the fellowcraft degree, and don't feel like you have to rush to get your master mason degree. Enjoy being a fellowcraft. There's a lot of value in that degree. Second, and this is something you can talk to your secretary about, it's something I've brought up in the past. When I was worshipful master of my lodge, one thing I asked every entered apprentice before they became a master mason, so they had for their EA and FC degrees, to write a letter to themselves and to place that letter in an envelope, seal it, and put on the date of the envelope, put on the envelope the date at which time they would receive their 25-year PIN. And when they got their 25-year PIN, pull out that letter and read it, read it to themselves. So you have a letter, in 25 years, you'll have a letter from yourself. I did that in 2015. So the first EA is scheduled to open his letter in 2040. So it's going to be a special moment. I would suggest maybe, David, consider doing something similar. There's a lot of interest in that process, and it gives people a really interesting keepsake to hold on to. And again, none of my EAs, I think, even remember what they wrote when they wrote the letter. So it's going to be fun when they get to open it. I hope that was some good advice for you, David. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, I'm sure you've got a great mentor, but still. So going back to Leonardo, I agree. The fellowcraft degree is absolutely awesome. Do you think sacred geometry is a clue for the supposed simulation? So yeah, I think that is what Courtney kind of talked about, and I kind of agree with that. The idea is the consistency that we see in the universe, which is expressed through mathematical principles and which is expressed through geometry, is a clue. It could be representative of the code of the universe, right? Another way to look at it, so Einstein said that mathematics was a language of God. You could say mathematics and sacred geometry is the language of the code under which we operate, or you could say that it is just proof of an ordered universe. But I think that has been something I've heard people say in the past. And as Freemasons, one thing we do understand and recognize is the ordered nature of the universe, which is really, really special. So I hope everybody is doing well. If you're just joining us, please, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The more people we have liking and subscribing this stream, the better it is for the chat. Acadian 11 Shepherd, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you are doing well. Thank you so much for once again for being here. Virtual words. I had this impression when I started to look into quadrivium and its mathematical patterns. I've heard that, but if you can let me know a little bit more about it, I'd love to know more about the quadrivium. I've heard about it in the past. I don't know if you have any links or any like a definition of it. Good afternoon, Acadian. I hope that you are doing well. Thank you so much for being here. Please, like I said, as always, hit that like button if you haven't done so yet, and let me know what you want to talk about. We were talking today about the connections between Freemasonry and what's the word? Between Freemasonry and agriculture, because today is National Agriculture Day in Canada. There's a lot of really fascinating connections between the two. Now we're talking just for fun about sacred geometry and the possible simulated nature of the universe. Stay with this quickly. Arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. Okay, yeah. Well, some of the liberal arts and sciences, 4 of the 7. Do you think we're living in a simulation? Yes. Looks like there's just one no so far, I think. So the yeses are definitely winning out over the no's. Putting on my nerd hat, I studied ludographical research. First of all, good for you. I support you putting on your nerd hat 100%. I say awesome. I studied ludographical research in college and was always fascinated by early games developed to be a simulation of larger, more philosophical ideas. First, I am not nearly smart enough, so I don't know what ludographical means. If you could let me know that. Also, when you say, it's interesting though, so simulation of early games developed to be a simulation of larger, more philosophical ideas. So do you mean like chess was developed as a way to represent war, for example? Which I could certainly see. I studied games as a method to evaluate cultural value systems. That is fascinating. Hold on just one second. I just noticed this is driving me crazy. I'll be right back. Notice that that door was open. That is real. I've studied games as a method by which to evaluate cultural value systems. That is really cool. I've never heard of that before, but that is really, really interesting. part history, art history, and cultural anthropology. That is really, really cool. I would love to learn more about how that works. I wonder if there's any connection between that and Freemasonry. Probably somewhere. I just can't think of any now. I can't think of any like Masonic games per se. If God is above time, anything inside time could be considered simulation. Since we're stuck in a time forever, we can't see. But once we transcend it, maybe we can't notice the real reality. I mean, maybe not. I'm not sure, but that is fascinating to think about. So in terms of Leonardo, I guess what I'd say is the question of being able to, in theory, transcend this time would be like if we could transcend the quote unquote simulation, whatever that means, like what would that look like? How would we be able to see outside of this simulation or the fabric of space time, right? You basically almost be seeing the rules as they're created. Part of history, I would actually love to research if there are any gamifications of Masonic philosophy or ideology as a way to teach abstract concepts in a tangible way. I mean, something maybe, though, but if there is something after death, then in theory, you would that would still also in and of itself be part of the simulation, right? It'd be part of the everything that is the simulation. I'm curious. I'm going to Google because I just want to check. Gamification of Freemasonry is the use of game-like elements to teach and share. Looks like, according to looks like there was a 1980s board game where the players collect stones to fill their trestle board, playing a vintage Masonic board game. This is from the California Freemason. Huh. Here, I'm going to share this. Raised eyebrow. Looks like there has been at least one Masonic board game called Build, which the Grand Lodge of California found. Let's give it 1 second. Completing the Master Mason degree is great, but it doesn't exactly quench the competitive thirst. For that, we turn to Build, a vaguely game and lifestyle board game from 1980 in which players fill their trestle board by collecting stones and presumably learning Masonic teachings. Does it work? Not really. Does someone earn bragging rights? You betcha. With that in mind, we asked our team of in-house gamers to test the strange relic of game nights past. Here's the picture of the board game. Here, let me share the link. Although, raised eyebrow, if you want to say thank you for me finding it, I hope you will enter our contest by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/square and compass. I think in the end, it should amount to a Masonic universe where it's all simply virtual reality. Well, maybe. I mean, it's very possible. I don't think anybody knows for sure, but I think that's a good guess. Douglas Marks, we live in the Matrix like the movie. See, here's my problem with the movie, The Matrix, Douglas Marks. I so you got Neo, right? You've got Neo. Neo is living in the world. Then people come and take him out of the world and tell him, actually, the world you're living in was a simulation. This is the real world. But at no point does Neo ever ask the obvious question, which is, well, how do I know that the world you pulled me into is the real world? How do I know that this is not in and of itself a simulation and there's another real world beyond this, right? Because one thing is, if I was a robot going to enslave the world, or robots going to enslave the world, I would create a simulation for the people, but then on the risk that they could get out of that simulation, I would create another simulation, right? You kind of create enough levels of simulations. So if he was living in one world that seemed real and he's pulled out of it into another, why does he assume that that one is real? Why not assume that that one is a simulation also? Because you would never, at the end of the day, be able to know what is real. That is my issue with the movie The Matrix. Having said that, Douglas Marks, I would recommend that you check out our Medium account. Because a friend of the channel, Peter Kuzman, just wrote for us, or we did an interview with him, I guess, where he wrote or answered some questions about Masonic symbolism in The Matrix and in Westworld, titled Symbols of Awakening and the Inner Search. So I'm going to share the link for that here. I hope that you will check that out. If you like The Matrix, maybe you'll like that article. From a purely academic perspective, man has always been drawn to create simulations of existing practices, philosophies, rites, etc., by creating a game version of the subject as a teaching tool. In the movie The Matrix, it combines Freemasonry with cosmic forces. Yeah, well, I think human beings have always, one of the things that has helped us be so successful, I guess define successful as you will, is how do I put this? Is the ability to abstract things in general, right? So we feel hunger, but then we can create a metaphor of like a god of hunger or a god of famine, or you know, we can take these physical concepts and then turn them into abstract ideas. And I think that that has been kind of the key to human success over the years. It's also meant, again, we can take a physical thing, turn it into an abstract idea, and then even turn it more into a game. This idea of versus, right? Good versus evil, playing chess with the devil, if I'm making any sense, that type of things, right? I think Freemasonry absolutely does the same thing. You could argue there's a certain game quality to Freemasonry, right? In the sense of like, you have a set of objectives, you have to reach those objectives, you have to get your first degree, your second degree, your third degree. You have to do this in this order. You could argue it's kind of a progressive game in a sense, where you're not necessarily you're not playing against anybody else, but you're playing for knowledge against darkness, or light against dark, or knowledge against ignorance, or, you know, temperance against imprudence. You're kind of playing these things off of each other in a sense, which you could argue it's always been the game, light versus dark. Wouldn't imagine that we live in a simulated reality, but we're projecting reality. Wouldn't imagine that we live in a simulated reality be a way of projecting reality into the image and likeness of what we perceive as reality? Well, you could argue, I mean, one of the things I've always loved about certain types of movies, like David Lynch style movies, is the what's the word? The idea that like there are multitudes within us, and it is possible for us to create it is possible for us to create worlds within ourselves that have meaning and value. You see that, for example, with like Mulholland Drive, which I think is the best example of that, where the movie's basically a woman creates a fantasy, or you could argue a simulation of a world she wants to live in and populates it with characters that do have importance and do matter. So in that way, I think yes, the idea of like what you're saying kind of sounds like that quote that David Lynch uses when he's talking about Inland Empire, which I will look up in a second. Because I think that is kind of what you're saying, Leonardo. Raised eyebrow. Background, for instance, was a way to gamify teaching with the phases of the moon and the transit of celestial bodies. So that brings up a good question. How would you, raised eyebrow, how would you define game? Because I was saying you could argue Freemasonry is a type of game, but it sounds like maybe there's a more specific definition as to what you're saying. And as for Leonardo, I think the quote that I'm thinking of, which I might use, is we are like the spider. We weave our life and then move along it. We are like the dreamer who dreams and then lives in the dream. This is true for the entire universe. Which I might take that. I'm going to actually see if I can share that quote here. And welcome. If you're just joining us, please hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know what it is you want to talk about. We were talking about the connections between Freemasonry and agriculture. Now we start talking about the idea of a simulation and potentially the ways in which Freemasonry can apply philosophically to some of these ideas about simulations in the universe. Game itself can be contentious in academic circles. One way to look at it is to prompt the desire to repeat tasks, satisfy a sense of fun, or otherwise a task which one chooses to do instead of needing to do. So in those cases, certainly Freemasonry would apply to the latter. It's a task which one chooses to do, but one doesn't need to do. And the idea of repeating tasks, I mean, it's not, Freemasonry doesn't necessarily repeat tasks in this sense. Exactly. It progresses, right? So you do a progressive series of tasks to create and get to another, to get to the next kind of benchmark. So it's not a circle, it's more like a spiral going up and up and up, or down and down and down, depending on your philosophy. Men exist in space between heaven and hell as a mediums to communicate to poles of the universe. Men occupy important positions in the universe in general. Yeah, I think men are pretty important in the universe. I would agree with that. Absolutely. And I hope everybody here is doing well. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Example, you can push a button and work all day, hate your job, but it pays you, so you can keep pushing the button. But you go home and choose to play games on your phone, pushing buttons. Choice matters. Makes sense to me. I'm going to, because I've been doing this stream for about 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I really have to run to the washroom. I'm going to do this poll question quick. Okay, I'm going to start that poll. Can Freemasonry be described as a game? Curious what your thoughts are. There's no right answer. Here's the moose, Mason the moose. He's back. And I am going to be back in a moment before I explode. All right, I made it back. Whew. Boy, did I have to go to the washroom there like crazy. I made it. All right, so sorry I was gone for so long, but I really had to go to the washroom. All right, so let's see. Acadian Shepherd. So if this is simulation, what's the point of giving pain? Is there a trick to blocking it out? By the way, everybody, please not to harp on this, but take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Well, I think in any simulation, like there needs to be some type of consequences for behavior. Otherwise, um, like what? Otherwise, there's the kind of the game starts to have no purpose, right? I mean, sometimes the consequence can just be like if there's a game you're playing and you lose, you just lose the game. Sometimes in like a video game, you die and have to restart, or your progress slows down to get to the finish. You know, in this type of, if this was a simulation, then if there was no pain, I mean, the simulation would probably be very short because people would get injured and not know about it, be more likely to get hurt or potentially die. So the game would get boring quickly, or the game would become like I think for better or worse, we need consequences. I think anybody would, to a certain extent, need consequences in order to feel like they were playing a game worth playing. And I think that could be potentially built into a simulation. We now have such a big database to learn anything in the world. We do, which is absolutely true. Peter Kuzmov, the sound of silence. Yes, Peter, the sound of silence. Though I made it back, you had my good friend Mason the Moose for a little bit. Um, but yeah, now we are back. So thank you so much for waiting out on me. When GTA 6 coming out? Anyone else waiting for it? I don't know. I'm not a big GTA. Like I've been saying, for me, when it comes to video games, my tendency is to look at, trying to think of some good examples of the things I like. I love Dead Space. I love Dead Space 2 and 3 as well as the first, but I think Dead Space 2 or 3 might be the best. I also really enjoyed Assassin's Creed Part 3 because it featured Freemasonry so heavily, but I've never played GTA 6. Are there any Freemasons in GTA 6? I'm curious. Peter, any Masonic connections? So when it comes to the idea of like an open world, would you say that that is a type of pandemic, geez, that is a type of simulation that human beings would be in? An open world simulation where you have certain parameters that are set, like how fast you can go, how far you can go, but within those parameters, we're kind of free to explore as much as we want. I'm surprised there aren't more Freemasons mentioned in video games because we pop up in movies a fair bit. Interestingly enough, we found a Masonic board game published in 1980 where you collect stones to build your trestle board, which the Lodge of the Grand Lodge of California touched on. So I don't know, Peter, if you how much you caught. There is one place dedicated a lot on VR, like one Masonic place on VR. That'd be really, really cool to check out. I got to get in. I don't know much about the virtual reality kind of world, but it's something I want to learn more about. I'm surprised there aren't more virtual Masonic lodges. Where is it located, if you don't mind my asking? The VR Masonic Lodge. Is it through Meta? Like, how do you find it? You say in London. So would I have to like virtual reality travel to London to find the lodge, or how would you go about doing that? Because that'd be really interesting to. I'd be very interested to learn more about that. Having being the first to admit, I know very little about how any of that stuff works. Though that might be kind of fun in and of itself to do a search of that. But earlier in the day, we were talking about Freemasonry and agriculture. Freemasonry was pretty heavily influential in the creation of 3 agricultural societies: the Future Farmers of America in Virginia in 1925, the Grange Society, which promotes the interests of farmers, in 18 after the Civil War, 1865 thereabouts, and the Order of Free Gardeners, which was founded in the early 17th century. Interesting enough, one thing I found was super fascinating is the Order of the Grange, which is a social group dedicated to promoting. I don't know all the tools, but I saw the symbol. It's a square, there's a compass, and there's like a knife that you use, I guess, to prune plants. So I saw their symbols. So I thought that was fascinating. And I saw the square and compasses located on a lot of their regalia. It seems like the Free Gardeners is very, very close to being non-existent, unfortunately, now. It seems to me like one of the reasons is because where Freemasons were willing to create grand lodges and structures, the other groups weren't. So, but Freemasons, we created passcripts, passwords. We have tilers and things to keep off Cowans and eavesdroppers. The Grange created the same, taking their ideas from Freemasons, but they were not trying to keep off Cowans and eavesdroppers. They were trying to keep off railroad spies, because apparently one of the big fights in North America and in America in the late 18th, early 19th centuries was between farmers who wanted to protect their land and railroads who wanted to build train tracks across their land for the trains, and that became a never-ending, I guess, fight. And so every group, I guess, has to deal with Cowans of some sort. For Freemasons, it's one type, and for the Grange Society, it was railroad spies. But I thought that was kind of cool. The Cult of Masons is a video game that has answers. Let's see if there is such a thing. The Cult of Masons game. Okay. Midnight Works. Look at this. This is interesting. The main plot of the game, The Cult of Masons, unfolds in a world shrouded in mystery and secrets. You find yourself drawn into a shadowy game where the main question becomes, who holds the key to unraveling the secrets of the Masons? As you strive to uncover the truth, you encounter a tangled web of intrigue, betrayal, and danger. The story begins with your encounter with the enigmatic organization known as the Masons, who control the world's wealth and resources. You discover that the Masons have deep roots and have long-guarded secrets that can change the course of history. Your goal is to uncover these secrets and neutralize the influence of the Masons. So we're, I guess, the negative ones here. As you progress in the game, you discover that the Masons operate through secret symbols and hidden messages. You must decipher Masonic messages to penetrate the core of the organization, advancing towards the pinnacle of the cult. However, every wrong step can lead to a mystical demise with high stakes and irreversible consequences. As you make progress in the game, You're given the opportunity to turn this supreme mind with the questions that haunt you, a mind that has answers to all questions created based on artificial intelligence. Jeez Louise. You start your journey as a Masonic apprentice. In the game, you'll have the opportunity to advance through the hierarchical ladder of the Masonic order. Looks like you start your journey as a Masonic apprentice, delving into the organization's secrets and studying the rituals and customs. Gradually, you gain recognition and become a brother of the order, joining the ranks of highly respected members of the Masonic community. I'm just going to share this screen. Just give me 1 second. The next step in your development is the opportunity to become a department head, where you are entrusted with the management of important tasks and organization operations. Then, upon reaching certain skills and knowledge, you can become a master of the lodge, taking responsibility for conducting ritual ceremonies of the Masonic order. And finally, the highest step of your advancement is to become the Grand Master. Your authority and influence will reach their peak, and you will be entrusted with a leadership role in the Masonic organization. Progressing through this hierarchical ladder opens up new opportunities, access to the secrets and knowledge of the Masons, and increases your status and prestige within the organization. The Cult of Masons offers you a unique gaming experience where each playthrough will be unique. Will you be able to uncover the secrets of the Masons and change the course of history? Or will you immerse yourself in darkness and vanish into oblivion, or perhaps join them, becoming part of this cult? The answer lies within the game, awaiting those who are brave enough to find it. It's a scary looking dude. All right, well, I'm probably going to end up getting copyrighted if I play this because YouTube can be a pain, but whatever. I'm going to play it anyways. I definitely need to look that up. I don't know, Peter, if you've ever found that game before. Have you ever heard of that game? If you have, let me know. If anybody on here has played it, let me know. I may make that a next a post. By the way, the questions we had above, do you consider, can Freemasonry be described as a game? Yes, 80%. So it looks like 4 yeses and 1 no. To the people who said yes, maybe let me know why you would say yes. And to the people who said no, same thing. Let me know maybe why it is that you said, or the person who said no, let me know why it is that you said no. And if you think maybe you might reconsider, or what is it about Freemasonry that would make you say yes or no? No, it's absolutely new to me. Okay, well, let me check on Wikipedia. Let's see if it's out right now. I saw the thing on Steam. Cult of Masons. Nothing on Wikipedia. Let's try Google. Let's see if there's a release date or if it's already been released. Cult of Masons game information. Looks like it's on Steam. Midnight Works. Survive FBI's pursuit in Masonic mysteries. I don't know what Steam is exactly, but it looks like it's there. Anyways, Peter, if you do end up playing it, let me know what you think. If it's multiplayer, we can get together and give it a try. Haha, not the best game, but it could be fun. You'll be better than I am. I promise you that. You will be, without question, better than me. Tonight, by the way, I have my interview with Black Raven Meditation and Core. We're going to be talking about spiritualism and Freemasonry and the different ways in which Freemasons can benefit potentially from spiritualism or some spiritualistic practices such as meditation and the value of meditation when it comes to life, but also how we can incorporate that into our Masonic meetings. Can Freemasonry be described as a game? Yes, 67% no. Looks like 2 no's, 4 yeses, um, or thereabouts. And also, as always, if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about, let me know. Cameron, please allow me to switch gears containing today's topic. Question is about farmers. They actually go back thousands of years in history, I think. Well, farming, I mean, goes back. So again, to kind of tie it into Freemasonry, you could argue that Freemasonry, Masonry itself, the ability to build things and manipulate stone dates back 3.5 million years and was the most important moment in human evolution when humans or our ancestors discovered that they could fashion stones into useful tools. Maybe the second most would be the agricultural revolution, which took place, I think, around 20,000 years ago. Let me just check. $12,000 years ago. So I said 10, so first agricultural revolution was 10,000 BC, prehistoric transition from hunting and gathering to settled agriculture, also known as the Neolithic Neolithic Stone Age, Neolithic Revolution. So it makes sense to me again that when you talk about things that are important to humans, after being able to fashion build things out of stone, maybe the most important thing was the ability to farm and maintain crops, which allowed us to, amongst other things, go from being nomadic to being, keep maintaining one place, one location, which meant human civilizations could develop. You could have more specialization of labor, all that good type of stuff. So I think that's very important to keep in mind as well. My game career was during the pandemic. Cyberpunk was my fave. I never played Cyberpunk, but that was with Keanu Reeves, right? I could have swore I've seen like clips of that and stuff. What about Atlantis and the pyramids? Well, the pyramids date to about 31 or something hundred BC, so about 5,000 years ago. I mean, I personally, I'm not sure Atlantis exists. I mean, I'm sure there have been throughout history islands, and on these islands, you have, um, civilizations that existed, and maybe there was some type of catastrophe on these islands. It could have been a volcano, could have been an earthquake, any number of things, and the civilization was destroyed either completely or some people were able to escape and tell the story, and that fed into this idea of Atlantis. But I don't believe Atlantis as being like an advanced civilization that would predate, say, the agricultural revolution. Of course, I could very well be wrong, right? I have no way to know. Nobody has any way to know any of this for sure. We're all kind of just going on the best evidence, but that's the best evidence I see. So if you brought up Kemet before, I remember that. And I've heard of the Emerald tablets. though I don't believe the emerald tablets or Kemet are dated past 10,000 years of BC, right? Because 10,000 BC would be 12,000 years ago. So I don't know when the emerald tablets are dated to, but I don't think they date that far back. Let me see. Emerald tablets. The writer is Thoth, an Atlantean priest king who founded a colony in ancient Egypt after the sinking of their mother country. He was the builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza, erroneously attributed to Cheops. See, I would think it was Cheops who built it. So let's see. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth presents a mystical and philosophical account attributed to Thoth, an Atlantean priest king built a Great Pyramid of Giza. Well, I'll check out some more of this. But it sounds questionable to me. Okay, so it was written by Maurice Doriel in 1898. Well, so Maurice Doriel lived from 1898 to 1963, and he published the book in the 1940s or 50s, influenced by the ancient Egyptian texts and Lovecraftian stories about part reptilian civilizations emerging from ancient Egypt like ruins. It deals with Atlantis and ancient race of serpent head men, alchemy, and a variety of other topics. So he claimed that the text of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth is a translation of a set of tablets he found at the Great Pyramid of Giza in 1925. I mean, my main question would be, did anybody ever see the Emerald Tablets? The ancient Basque states they come from a place called Atlantica. Cameron have heard, yeah, I'm sure there's been a few. I'm sure there's been a few. Just trace my family origins and the history of the origins of the Hermetics. We recently made a video about a pretty advanced place dated before the Sumer, but it's not a conspiracy one. Well, I mean, I'm sure like human beings, advancements are going to grow, right? They're going to go up and down in length, right? Or not in length, I shouldn't say that. They're going to go up and down in capabilities and progress. So, but I think, like you could argue in some ways, I'm just saying all over the world, there are pyramids, everywhere the Atlanteans. Yeah, but I got to question that a bit, Asadian. So I know that there are pyramids all over the world, but there's only so many ways to build anything out of stone, right? There's only so many designs that make sense. I mean, it doesn't shock me that different civilizations would come to the realization that stone is a valuable building material because it lasts longer than wood and is more durable than wood, and also that they would come up with the same building designs because there's only so many designs that make sense when it comes to based on the laws of physics, right? I mean, I agree. Stonework has its roots somewhere. I think stonework has its roots 3.5 million years ago when one of our ancient human ancestors, probably Australopithecus afarensis, realized that you could fashion and shape stone into tools. And then as as the millennia went on, this knowledge grew and grew and grew. And as more human ancestors and human realized what stone could be used for, you start to see these specializations. It's no different than agriculture. It's no different than anything else, right? It's like the knowledge builds on the past, you know? And and then like everything else, you get to a point where you have specialization. So for example, I have no idea how anything that I'm doing right now works. Like, I have no idea why the microphone I'm speaking into records my voice and sends it over the internet. I have no idea how YouTube works. I have no idea how anything I'm doing right now works. But I don't need to know it works because we have specialization in labor. And in the same way with stonemasonry, I'm sure many ancient people had no idea how to build a stone structure, how to build a stone house, how to create a stone tool, but they didn't have to because they had more and more specialization of labor put into the hands of stonemasons, right? But I don't think that requires any type of Atlantean network or anything of that nature. I think humans are pretty capable of doing some pretty incredible things all on their own. Um, Grandmaster Timothy Hogan has good knowledge on this topic. I'm not sure who Timothy Hogan is. When you say Grandmaster, do you mean he's a Mason? Timothy Hogan. Judge, politician. So I'm not sure. Sorry, who? Timothy Hogan Templar is probably the person I want to speak to. Grand Master, Order of the Temple, Secret Initiatives, Knights Templar Lineage, Order of the Martinus Temple. I mean, what I will do is I don't think he's actually a Mason, but I will follow him. Um, let's see what he has to say. The tools were carefully engineered. They certainly were. I mean, everything was carefully engineered, right? As carefully as you could at the time. Um, I know he would love to come on your show. It'd be great to have him on the show. I don't know who else, what other shows he's been on. I'll have to do some research on him. I do have several interviews coming up in the coming. I have one tonight actually at 6. So I'm gonna have to end this stream pretty soon because I have to get ready for my live stream interview tonight, which I'm very much looking forward to. And I still got to grab some food beforehand. Yeah, I got what you were trying to say. Uh, Typos happen all the time. Happen to me too. Don't worry. I agree in part. The problem is that technology used to build the pyramids was not replicable in other architectures of the time. There was a gap. It's as if those who came later didn't know how it was done. They just speculated. The Egyptians have wonderful agriculture. They do. Well, I mean, the breadbasket of the Egypt, right, was the Nile. I think so. In some ways, that's true. In some ways, it's just different climates, different cultures. Like the Aztec pyramids came several thousand years later than the Egyptian pyramids, but also they were living in very different everything, different climates, different types of stones. The designs are going to be the same, but I'd rather let him explain his background to you. Yeah, no, that would be great. I don't know. I'm just looking at his stuff on Instagram at the moment. So he was definitely on a few different podcasts. Who are the Templars today? Technologies. Yeah, I mean, he seems like a friendly guy. Like I said, I question a little bit of what I'm seeing, but I don't know enough about it to know too much right now. So, Templar Tours presents Mayan Mysteries. Come join as we explore the ancient Mayan culture's connection with the Templars, China, and even Egypt. Okay, very cool. I would love to keep this stream going because it's been a blast, but sadly, I do have to prepare for my interview tonight. So I think I'm going to call this one off for now. Thank you, Courtney. I appreciate it very much. I am going to call this one off now, but I will be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. I was going to have an interview with Black Raven Meditation. We're going to talk about spirituality, meditation, how that stuff can be of benefit to Freemasonry. So, all right, but first I gotta get some food and get ready. So thank you guys so much, and I look forward to seeing you soon. All right.